This is the Savvy Social Podcast, a show for entrepreneurs, business owners, creatives, and marketers looking for the how and the why of social media marketing. I'm your host, ANDREA Jones, and my goal is to help you create connection and build community by keeping social media simple and fun, with a focus on helping you make your difference in the world. Now, our shows are brought to you by Traject Social, which is the world's most complete social media management tool, and it's my tool of choice when it comes to scheduling, managing, and especially reporting on social media. You can try them out for yourself for free by going to trajectsocial.com. Now, today's episode is actually pulled in from the Savvy Social School. So I've mentioned this before, but we have a brand new course in the Savvy Social School called Facebook Savvy, and it features all of the new Facebook features. I don't know if you've noticed this, but Facebook looks different, okay? When you log on now, they go, welcome to the new Facebook. If you don't have it yet, it's coming. And so I created this course, actually revamped, to really tune in to the new Facebook. And so today on the podcast, I am going to share with you Module 8, Lesson number 1, which talks about Facebook groups. It's really diving into the pros and cons of starting a Facebook group. So I give you my number 1 tip to know if you want to start a Facebook group or not. This is the question you should ask yourself. So listen in for that. But then I also dive into the pros and cons. Now, I say this in the lesson, but caveat being, lately, I've not been a fan of Facebook groups for free. There are certain people who can pull them off, but a lot of us, many of us, it's going to be an uphill battle. But I try to give you the pros and cons of the Facebook group in today's session, which again is pulled directly from Facebook Savvy. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's actually slides that go along with this lesson. But if you're listening along with it, you'll get everything you need. So check it out. We're going to play that in a minute. Before that, though, if you are wondering how to create a social media strategy, I mentioned things. I actually can't remember if I mentioned this in this lesson, but we talk a lot about our social media success framework in the school. And if you go, what the heck is she talking about? I actually have a free course that walks you through the framework. You can find it by going to OnlineDrea.com/free. That's OnlineDrea.com/free, FREE. And you can access the framework course. So it's 7 lessons. It walks you through the framework. It comes with a workbook. It comes with a toolkit as well. So if you need tools to get started, I give you my recommendations. And it's really a sample of what the Savvy Social School is all about. So try it out for yourself. Let me know what you think. And let's dive into this lesson all about Facebook groups. Here we go. All right, let's talk about Facebook groups and should you start a free Facebook group. Now, before we dive into the pros and cons of a Facebook group, I do want to kind of explain to you the difference between a Facebook group and the rest of the options on Facebook. So a Facebook group is an online community on Facebook where people who share the same interests can congregate and communicate. So anyone can create a group and individuals can be members of up to 6,000 groups. So there's a lot of groups that you can be a member of. Now, a few things I want to highlight here is that when you're creating a Facebook group, you are creating it as your personal profile. So not your business page, but your personal profile. I'll later show you how you can add in a business page and interact as a business page, but you always have to have a personal profile connected to that group, and that has to be kind of the admin of the group, and it is public. That information is public. So keep that in mind as you're going through. I know some of you want to keep your business and your personal life separate. That can be a challenge with Facebook groups. Now, before you kind of dive into the Facebook group arena, I want you to ask yourself this question. If I started a Facebook group today, do I have enough influence to get 100 members? Okay, so if you started a Facebook group today, could you invite 100 people to join, and you know without a doubt 100 people would join in. If the answer to that question is no, then I want you to reconsider starting a Facebook group. And the reason being is typically 100 is the magic number for getting some participation going into that free Facebook group. And it shows Facebook that you're serious and you have a community to kind of kickstart the group activity. So typically when I'm consulting with someone or if you're on a strategy call with me and you want to know if you should start a Facebook group, if you cannot answer without a doubt yes to this question, I would reconsider your strategy. There's a lot of things you can do to network in Facebook groups. There's a lot of things you can do joining other Facebook groups and meeting community members that way and being a part of other communities. And typically that's a really great way to start before you start your own group. Another thing I want you to consider is this. If I started a Facebook group today, do I have the time and energy to nurture that free community? Okay, so if you started it today, would you have the time to do so? Now, time spent in the community varies, but think about having 100 people show up every single day in a classroom where you have to entertain them for 30 minutes. Do you have that capacity right now? If the answer is no, then you may want to consider some of the other social media platforms. Okay? So it does take time and energy to nurture a free community. So let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of a Facebook group. So pros and cons. Cons. I'll start with the cons, and I will leave this with a little bit of a caveat. As I'm recording this in May 2020, I'm not really a fan of Facebook groups anymore for free. I love them as a premium option. I love them as a way to connect with, be a part of other groups, but a lot of my clients and students are struggling with Facebook groups, typically because they cannot answer yes to that first question that I asked, which is, do you have, without a doubt, 100 people you know for sure who would join your group right away? Okay, so here are a few of my cons after I gave my little caveat in that I'm not a personal fan of starting groups for most of you listening and watching this. But Facebook groups can be challenging to build and to grow. So you do have to attract people into your group, and then that can be a challenge to kind of nurture and build that community of people. Facebook groups can also attract the wrong people. So free Facebook groups seem to attract the wrong people. The people who want advice for free. The people who don't want to do the work. They would just want to sit and chit chat. The people who are only there to promote their own stuff. People who will never become a client, or people who just want to show up and hate and be mean and negative. And so I do find that group sometimes really collects those people into one little bucket, and they tend to hang out with each other. And you know that phrase about one bad apple? Well, sometimes that happens with Facebook groups. Facebook groups also require moderation so that you can make sure that your community is contributing in a way that's positive and helpful. So if you do have someone who's spamming, then you're going to have to be the person who moderates that. If you do have some negativity, you will have to moderate that as well. And then just generally speaking, making sure that the conversation is around the topic that you created in the group. Facebook groups can require some more engagement and attention than some of the other platforms. So because there is this idea that it is a community participating, sometimes you have to do things to engage that community, to spark that communication and to spark that level of engagement. And so sometimes it requires a little more nurturing than, say, a public Facebook page or Instagram or another platform like that. And with Facebook, there's not a way to communicate with your members outside of your Facebook group. So if you're building up this group of people on Facebook, you can only communicate to them within the Facebook group. I will show you some ways that you can circumvent this a little bit, have them kind of opt into other places. But typically, if you kind of build this group on Facebook and Facebook decides to shut down your group or you decide to move on, sometimes you lose connection with some of those members. Okay. All right. So the pros of having a Facebook group, it's not all doom and gloom. I promise you there are some pros to having a Facebook group, and some of my clients have some really beautiful Facebook communities that they've built up and really kind of nurtured such a wonderful group of people. So one of the huge pros of Facebook groups is that you're building a community of super fans. You're building the people who are going to go out there and share the word and talk about you and be your advocates out in the world. So it can be a really, really powerful tool for that. Facebook groups also create a space for people on a platform that they're already using. So they're already logged into Facebook. They're already going to check it daily or whatever the case may be. So they don't have to download another app. They don't have to go to another website. They don't have to do anything else because they're already on Facebook. And so they're already going to be able to participate in that group along with the other things that they're doing on the platform. You can also have more participation with your community within a group versus a Facebook page, for instance. So when you're looking at a Facebook page, you're the primary source of the content of that page. People can comment on your post, but they can't post on your page. Whereas within a Facebook group, it reacts more like a forum or a community where community members can submit their own topics, they can start their own conversations, they create their own posts, and essentially create their own content within the realms of that community. So you can have an opportunity to have more of a dialogue with your community versus some of the other platforms. Lastly, Facebook is prioritizing group content right now. So what that means is at the time of recording this, Facebook is more likely to show a post from a Facebook group over a post on a Facebook page. So if you have some important content, if you have content that's getting a lot of engagement, and Facebook looks at it on the group, they're going to show that post in the feed more so than a Facebook page post. So group posts are being prioritized in our feed as we're scrolling over Facebook pages right now. Okay, Facebook really wants people to utilize groups. So as you go through building your Facebook page or your Facebook group strategy, I want you to really think about the pros and cons. I want you to really think about that question that I asked, if you could have 100 people, before you start down the process of building your group. Good luck. So, what do you think? Are you going to start a Facebook group if you're still on the fence? I highly, highly recommend joining the Savvy Social School. We have weekly coaching, and I will coach you on whether you should start a Facebook group or not. It's not for everybody, but for some people, it can be a very powerful part of your social media sales funnel. So again, join the Savvy Social School. I'd love to coach you. It's $57 a month, and you'll get the rest of the Facebook Savvy course as well as any updates. If they decide to change Facebook again, we will update the course again because we want to support you and help you along your journey. If you like the show, make sure you give us a review, a rating, a thumbs up, subscribe, follow, do all of those things. I am so grateful for your listenership. We are consistently in the top 25 podcasts in the marketing category, and it's because of you that I'm able to say that, so thank you. Next week on the show, I'm actually hoping to have a diversity and inclusion expert. Now, I am recording this way ahead of time because I'm moving this week. So I will have it figured out by then, but due to the uprising, the upheaval that Black people in America are feeling due to the protests that recently happened and due to police brutality, there are a lot of shifts happening in online marketing. And there are a lot of businesses who want to become more diverse and inclusive. So next week, either I'll have a guest or I will just talk about my experiences and what I'm teaching to my members and my mentees. But I'd really prefer to have a guest. Either way, tune into that episode. It's very, very important. That will be episode number 104 coming out next week. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the internet. Bye for now.